Okay, so we'll go to the second session here, the session of the hadith. And we had read some hadith that start with the saying of the Prophet that such people Allah will not talk to on the day of judgment. He will not look at them and He will not absolve them of their sins, and for them is a painful punishment. Several hadiths start with this statement. لا يكلمهم الله يوم القيامة ولا ينظر إليهم ولا يزكيهم ولهم عذاب أليم. And that indicates that whatever acts and whatever deeds mentioned in these sayings of the Prophet are severely prohibited. They are major sins, and the people who commit those sins are very likely to be punished in the hereafter. They are more likely to be punished for the sins than other sinners. And we read hadith number 192, 193, 194, 195, and then 196. Again, it starts with the same statement. Those three people Allah will not talk to, will not look at them, will not absolve them of their sins, and for them is a painful punishment. He says, رَجُلٌ عَلَى فَضْلِ مَاءٍ بِالْفَلَاةِ يَمْنَعُهُ مِنْ ابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. He says, a man who found water in a desert. And of course, the water, fadl ma, means it is plenty of water. It is enough for him and others. But since he found this treasure in the middle of the desert, although it is not, he didn't create it, it is Allah created it in this place so that people who are lost in the desert or passing by can make use of it. So he feels that he has ownership of this water and prevents other passers-by from utilizing it and using it. Of course, this is claiming possession of something that does not belong to him, exposing people's life to danger and death, basically. If they don't drink in that station and they keep going, they might not even make it. It's a sign of greed, a sign of lack of mercy. Yani, a very evil person would do something like this to prevent people from drinking water in the middle of the desert just because he got to the water before them, right? ورجل بايع رجلا بسلعة بعد العصر فحلف له بالله لأخذها بكذا وكذا فصدقه وهو على غير ذلك. This same description applies to a previous hadith that somebody, another person here, he sold his merchandise to another man. He says بعد العصر بعد العصر, after Salat al-Asr, and he made an oath by Allah that he bought this merchandise for such and such price, so as to deceive this other person, and the person believed in him and he bought it for the higher price because this person told him this is how much I got it for, and he was lying to him. Now, you're allowed to make profit, of course, in your merchandise, but you're not allowed to lie. You can if you bought something, let's say for $20 and you want to sell it for 60 or 80 or 100, it's up to you. But don't deceive people and say to them, Wallahi, or by Allah, I bought it for $80, although you bought it for 20, I'm only making maybe $10. And to make an oath by Allah, so now there's lie, and there's also lack of glorification of Allah or disregard for Allah's being a witness, because وَقَدْ جَعَلْتُمُ اللَّهَ عَلَيْكُمْ كَفِيلًا. When you make an oath, you are basically saying that Allah is my guarantor, Allah is my witness and guarantor that I'm not lying to you. Okay, so the person would believe you just because you mentioned the name of Allah, right? So you're misusing and abusing the name of Allah Azza wa Jal by doing so. بعد العصر, that he says, why he mentioned بعد العصر, after Asr, because he says this time has special importance in Islam, because this is the time, Salat al-Asr is the time where the angels that count our deeds, they shift during that time. The angels stay with us until Asr, and they ascend with the deeds, and new angels come down, and they all meet around this time, around the time of Asr and after Asr. And also at Salat al-Asr, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى وقوموا إليها قانتين. It is in Ba'd al-Asr means supposedly you have prayed. Of course, Ba'd al-Asr, we expect that this person has just finished Salah. So finished Salah, you have to have some kind of feeling towards Allah Azza wa Jal. So, and that is why look in Surah Al-Ma'idah, تحبسونهما من بعد الصلاة فيقسمان بالله. If you want somebody to say the truth, the ayah mentions that if you want somebody to give a testimony under oath, he says you ask them to wait after Salah specifically. فيقسمان تحبسونه من بعد الصلاة فيقسمان. After Salah they make the qasam. So here it is a sacred Salah, one of the most sacred Salah. Angels are all witnessing our deeds, and you are supposedly now just finished Salah, so you have to have some kind of khushu' or closeness to Allah Azza wa Jal, but you've abused all this, especially if this person saw you praying with him. Imagine that. Praying next to him, and then he goes out and deceives him. Now, finally he says, وَرَجُلٌ بَايَعَ إِمَامًا لَا يُبَايِعُهُ إِلَّا لِدُنْيَا فَإِنْ أَعْطَاهُ مِنْهَا وَفَّى وَإِنْ لَمْ يُعْطِهِ مِنْهَا لَمْ يَفِي. He says the third person who also deserves this punishment mentioned in the beginning of the hadith, a man who pledged allegiance to the and obedience to the ruler, to the just Muslim ruler, but he only did this because he was he wanted to attain some worldly gain. He says if he attains it, he will fulfill his pledge. If he does not attain it, he will go against him. Now, if people behave in such a way, this would lead to lack of order, loss of order, loss of law and order, and chaos. And this is we see the conflict happening right nowadays in Sudan. What's going on? You know, this guy wants dunya and this guy wants dunya. You're following what's happening in Sudan, right? Do you think either one of the two generals fears Allah or wants the best for the people, or is trying to obey Allah by what he's doing? None of them want any of that stuff. Everybody, whether the leaders or the followers, of course, especially the ones who the rebels, all just want dunya. All want dunya. So that's and. So basically this finishes the hadith, completes the hadith that talk about this statement, and then inshallah the next chapter will talk about the prohibition of killing oneself, prohibition of suicide. Inshallah we'll stop here. This doesn't work.